And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lowdown Podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Lakers insider for Lakers Daily. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about Bronny James being cleared by the NBA to remain in the NBA draft and the coverage that followed. We're going to be talking about LeBron James visiting Cleveland to go watch a basketball game there. And the reason I found that so funny. We also got a report from Adrian Wojnarowski and Dave McMenamin of ESPN, kind of detailing the Lakers coaching search or giving an update on that coaching search. And I will be I'm literally pulling that up right now to have that off to the side to kind of draw from and compare it to what I've offered up thus far to you guys. And then I promised you guys yesterday, because of how many questions I got from Twitter, I promised you guys that I would pop back into that tweet that I sent asking for questions and try to answer as many of those as I possibly can. And then also answer some of the questions that you guys have from this live taping here on YouTube. A reminder, please do hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts, and also tell friends about said podcast. If you guys are watching live right now, if you just stumbled upon this channel at 9:30 Pacific Coast time, just looking for Lakers stuff, hit that subscribe button. YouTube.com/@Lakers Lakers Lounge is where you can find this thing. You can follow me on Twitter at Anthony Irwin LA. And hit the like button, comment, review, rate, all those good things. And again, tell your friends about this thing. But without further ado, let's dive into Bronny James getting cleared to remain in the draft and the coverage of it and the chances that the Lakers go out and try to bring him in. So, first and foremost, the only thing that matters here is that Bronny James is healthy. Like, that is the only thing that matters in the grand scheme of things. And it was great to hear that he is going to be able to, pursue his dream, or what I hope is his dream. You never know, because we never hear from the kid, and he apparently isn't allowed to speak for himself publicly. But all that matters here is that he is healthy, and one would hope as close to fully recovered as you can possibly be, given the way that his collegiate career began, which has been weird that that's been kind of swept under the rug, that he began the year with a cardiac event and had to recover from that in order to go out and play as a freshman at USC. He had a pretty pedestrian first year at USC. If he was any other kid, he would not be, or any other son of any other father, basically, he would not have any real chance at being drafted in the NBA. But he is LeBron James's son, and he is going to have a chance, and he is going to enter the draft, and he'll probably be taken in the second round somewhere, I would guess. Or I just can't imagine he'd go undrafted. But we also know that he could, we've seen this happen with Austin Reeves. We've seen this happen with others, where Bronny could, and his camp could ask a team or the teams on the back half of the second round not to draft him, so that he can sign as a free agent. In that event would be most likely with the Los Angeles Lakers. The reports as they stand right now have indicated that the Lakers are interested in bringing Bronny in. I don't think that they would move heaven and earth to go out and get Bronny, but if he is there for the taking and they have an opportunity in the second round to basically, continue to make good on their relationship with LeBron, that's probably how this is going to play out. And certainly if he goes undrafted, I would be shocked if he wound up anywhere else other than the Lakers. It just seems too natural a thing for the Lakers to do, to bring Bronny in and allow him to develop um, in the same organization as his dad, and obviously, ideally, share the court with his dad. I think that's what LeBron would prefer. And again, I don't know what Bronny would prefer. Like, that's been the question that I've asked most often behind the scenes is, how do we know what Bronny is hoping for? How do we know that this is something that he is actually, really, 10 toes in the sand, really, really focused on, and really cares deeply about? Nobody could know. He has certainly put in the work to put himself in a position to potentially play in the NBA. But like, I think we can all be honest and say that the only reason he has a chance at making the NBA this season, this off season, is because of who his dad is. That doesn't have to be negative. It does make him kind of a nepo baby, but like, it doesn't have to be the grand to do that everybody is apparently so afraid to say. Like, I really don't understand. And that was the thing coming out of the workouts that he went through. Obviously yesterday, by the time you guys are listening to this, or today, if you guys are watching live, thought it was super weird. And I think I've thought it's been super weird how many people are just being like insanely polite about Bronny James. Now, I'm fine with more people being polite in a macro sense. I'm fine with looking on the bright side of things, if and maybe people should be more focused on doing that more often, and we'd live in a different world. But again, in the world that we live in, and the way that some of these guys get scouted, and the amounts of money and resources that go into getting these selections correct, or the amounts of time and resources spent on analyzing these players and prospects across all of sports, for content's purpose too. I have found it super interesting that everybody is basically tiptoeing around the fact that, like, Bronny might not be that good. He's not very big. He's a solid kid. He's a solid whatever he is, 6'3" or 6'4", however tall he is. But he is, he's not the athlete that his dad is. Nobody is. His shot, the release looks pretty pure, but it's kind of slow and clunky getting to that point. He has decent instincts on the ball. He is built in a way that should allow him to be a good defender, if that is something that he really focuses on. So maybe you could see a 3-and-D wing in there somewhere, maybe. But it's been really weird how, like, nobody wants to criticize the prospect or point out even like the very clear flaws in his game. He should be, like, if he is drafted, it'll probably be in the second round. If he is taken late in the first round, it would feel like a bit of a waste or a reach in that first round draft pick area. But because of the amounts of pull that LeBron has over the media, you are seeing a lot of people like, well, maybe he could be good. Maybe I saw Adrian Wojnarowski saying, like, he could sell G League tickets. Like, what? Who's buying G League tickets to go watch Bronny play? Like, that's not something that, like, I unless he's like lighting up the G League, and in which case, if he's lighting up the G League, whatever organization he's playing is going to want him to play on their main team. So I don't know. It's been really weird watching all of this go on. I think it's really kind of highlighted some of, like, it's really kind of shown a light on the way that this stuff goes, and some of the favors that are done in media and stuff like that, especially now that LeBron is interested in doing more media. I think you're seeing a lot of people kind of line up to make sure that they're in his kind of good graces there. But I've found it really interesting, and again, I would have no problem whatsoever with the Lakers taking him late in the second round. And certainly if he's available to be signed as a free agent, fine, cool, whatever. But I've seen people saying that like the Lakers, and I got to clarify, I said last night that maybe I thought that it was the 18th pick that they have. They do indeed have the 17 pick in this year's draft. If they even considered using the 17 pick on Bronny, I'd be pretty pissed, because that is an asset that the Lakers should be using to trade, and they would be reaching for Bronny at that spot just for the sake of the story. He's not a first round. He's not a he's if he is a first round pick, he's like in the 25 to 30 range. And if he and he for damn sure isn't, just after the lottery range. And if the Lakers did use that pick that way, even given that it would improve the standing between LeBron and Pelinka, I don't care. That'd be a missed opportunity. And as much as I'm pulling for the kid, and as much as I would like to see him succeed, just like I would like to see any of these prospects succeed, that would be pretty disappointing if that was how this all turned out. But all the luck in the world to him. I have found this whole thing really, really weird from the very beginning of his first, when it was first announced that he was going to USC, and how it's been handled ever since. The fact that my friend Miran Fader was writing, and Miran is like the fairest writer, the fairest person that I know. And the fact that the James camp wouldn't make him available to speak on his own behalf. He is now an adult. He's going to have to talk at some point. At some point, we're going to hear what this kid sounds like. And at some point, he's going to have to make his own decisions in figuring out who to talk to and how to handle various things and various questions and all of that. And college is where you learn how to do all of that, so that when you get to the pros, you have some practice. But now he doesn't have that. And he's not that exciting a prospect. And it's just all of this. I just keep asking, is this actually what he wants? Has anybody asked if this is actually what he wants? Or is this something that LeBron wants for his son? I don't know. I'm not saying that it is or it isn't or whatever. I don't know. And I'm made to feel really weird by the fact that nobody seems to know. Like when I ask, what is going on here? Is this something that he actually wants? Nobody has been able to tell me definitively, yes, it definitely is. That's really weird. it's his kid's life, and nobody seems to know. But if it is what he wants, and if it's at least what he wants to try, cool. All the luck in the world, Bronny. Go out there and kill him. And hell, make me look like an idiot. Make it so that people can grab that snippet of that really quick scouting report and make me look like a moron for saying that I don't think you're a mid-first round pick. But I would love nothing better than to look like an idiot there. I just think all of this has been super weird to this point. Also super weird was LeBron James going all the way to Cleveland to watch the Cleveland Cavaliers play the Boston Celtics in a playoff game. And he sat right there courtside. He sat right there with Savannah, and they took in the game. And obviously, because it's LeBron James and because he's sitting there courtside, you knew that TNT was going to highlight that. He knew that TNT was going to highlight that. And that's the part of all of this that I found funny. Look, he has a major decision to make with that player option. This would have been absolutely outrageously funny if the Lakers hadn't fired Darvin Ham already, and this was him kind of like, hey guys, still over here, still standing over here. But I do kind of think that for the first time really in his relationship with the Lakers, he's going to use that player option and keep on, kind of passive aggressively applying some pressure to make sure that the Lakers actually do or actually are fully committed to moving all three of the first rounders that they could this year to improve the roster, because I'm still looking around the league right now and I think it's wide open. For a little while, we thought, wow, good Lord, Minnesota might be a juggernaut. And then they have gotten their ass kicked by the Denver Nuggets, who might also be a juggernaut, but I don't know. I don't think they are. They're a very thin team. Maybe the Celtics are a juggernaut. They've been frauds for about as long as I've been covering basketball now, but maybe they finally figure some stuff out there. Maybe OKC is a juggernaut in the waiting if Sam Presti ever commits to winning in the time being. It's kind of crazy that like their big deadline acquisition OKC's this year was a broken down Gordon Hayward, given the insane amounts of picks that they could use to improve a team that like could compete for is currently competing for a championship. And that was the path that they took. So maybe maybe Presti is like forever committed to just building, never actually getting over the top, but like just building a really exciting young team. And that's all Presti's kind of good for. And then you can like maybe Dallas. I don't think Dallas is a juggernaut, right? I think they're way too thin. Kyrie Irving got in foul trouble tonight, and Tim Hardaway Jr. had to play, key minutes in the playoff game. That should terrify Mavericks fans. And then everybody else in the East sucks, right? Like the Knicks, fun, try hard team, not serious. Pacers don't play enough defense. The Cavs, they're getting dog walked by the Boston Celtics right now. So I see the league right now is wide stinking open. And I think LeBron probably sees it the same way. And I think, him going to that playoff game today, sitting right there front and center for everybody to see, operates as a bit of a message. Like, yeah, we're still here. I do have a player option. I could opt out. I could go back to Cleveland and help this group over the hump and win another championship as right in on my shining stallion and save the day once again for my hometown. That could be something I might be interested in. Now, he could have also been there to scout Donovan Mitchell. Unfortunately, Mitchell didn't play. He's dealing with a left calf strain, apparently. So, like, I don't know. Like, I first off, my first instinct was just to laugh because LeBron is incapable himself of not being the story for a little while. And then also people are incapable of not allowing or not just letting him do stuff, right? Like, I don't know how many segments ESPN has done about, whether playing into his, year 40 season is somehow bad for his legacy while he plays really good basketball. While the second round is underway, that's been a topic of conversation at ESPN because Stephen A. Smith makes every decision about content there, and he's not very good at this. So, like, I don't know. I look at the way that this all played out, and I laughed at it, initially. And then I did kind of sit and think about it for a little bit. And of course, he's going to apply some pressure. I want him to apply some pressure. Me, the Lakers fan, wants LeBron James to apply some pressure to force the Lakers to actually commit to helping him get over the hump and really actually viably compete for a championship next year. Because the last few seasons hasn't been that. It hasn't. Like they haven't gone all in at any point here, basically since the Russell Westbrook offseason. And even then, they didn't want to go all in then because they decided that Alex Caruso and the luxury taxes that it would have taken to bring back Alex Caruso wasn't worth it. So the Lakers basically for going on 5 years now have not gone all in with LeBron James on their roster or in their organization. And if I were LeBron, I'd be pretty pissed by it. I would apply some pressure using this player option that he does. And hopefully that's how all of this finishes up. And I took him going to that playoff game today as kind of, a quick, nice, easy little reminder. Like, yeah, I'm pretty popular out here in Cleveland. You might want to keep that in mind if you guys do intend to, just kind of straddle the line between competing now and trying to prepare yourself for the post-LeBron era. So the next one here, the next topic here is a report from ESPN, and it was Adrian Wojnarowski and Dave McMenamin reporting on, this is the headline sources, Lakers to start contacting head coaching candidates, which made me wonder, again, immediate reaction was like, it's been, what's the song? It's been 1 week since you looked at me like you haven't done anything. Everybody was like, all right, we fired Darvin. Job here is done. Wait, no, it isn't. It's not done. It's not done. We have to do more. Okay. Well, all right. We will come back here and we'll figure this out in a week. In that week, they've missed out on hiring the most accomplished candidate that was on the market, Mike Budenholzer, who, again, I'm not losing any sleep over. But the fact that this guy was hired before the Lakers leaked that they were starting to contact coaching candidates, certainly weird, certainly interesting. Also missed out on Charles Lee, who again was a fringe candidate for this position before they started contacting potential candidates. And then like the way that this was written was like really difficult to discern. Like I'm just gonna, all right. So from Chicago, my guess is, Woj is out there in Chicago for the combine that is going on right now. Quote, the Los Angeles Lakers are expected to start contacting coaching candidates in the coming days with an initial concentration on sitting assistants and head coaches and ex-head coaches with whom they have less familiarity, sources told ESPN on Monday. Lakers VP of basketball operations and general manager Rob Pelinka has been gathering information on a number of head coaching candidates, including ESPN analyst JJ Redick, sources said. The initial wave of requests for interview permissions will be with those organizations, will be with those the organization hasn't met with in previous searches or simply knows less than other candidates. In Pelinka's conversations with officials across the league, the term grinder keeps coming up in the general manager's description of an important characteristic for the next head coach, sources said. It goes on to list Chris Quinn, James Borrego, also mentioned JJ Redick above. I've mentioned Kenny Atkinson, and obviously David Adelman and others have been listed or been mentioned for as people that the Lakers are going to be talking to, or I would have figured would have already started talking to, but apparently, you need a week or so to decompress after a season. I, again, was kind of surprised that this process hasn't started already. I did say yesterday that I thought that this was going to take a little while they wait for some kind of clarity or some kind of resolution to the Tyronn Lue and Clippers standoff that I keep on Googling to see, like, I keep on wondering if I've missed it. I don't think I've missed anything between Ty Lue and the Clippers, coming to, the latest is still the Clippers are reportedly looking at signing Lue to a contract extension per ESPN, one that would take him further than the 25-26 season, which is when his current deal is set to expire. And that was written on May 4th. We are now May 13th, 9 days after that report. And we're still waiting on some kind of clarity there. And what was really weird here, though, from this report from Woj and from Dave McMenamin, which is really short, also, was that Lue goes unmentioned. He's not mentioned anywhere in the piece. And I found that to be really weird. They're kind of dragging their feet while we all know that and I can report that they are keeping an eye on the Ty Lue situation there with the Clippers. If he was available, he'd be hired already, is how one person has kind of made it known to me. And this I think pretty resoundingly confirms the stuff that I've been telling you guys, that the Lakers are waiting on Lue, and then they'll start on the other candidates once they get some kind of a resolution there. And I also think that the Clippers are waiting for the Lakers to make a move before they come to some kind of agreement with Lue, whether that is to agree to part ways or to agree to an extension. However this is going to play out, again, super weird. A lot of red flags that that I find myself kind of worrying about. And one such red flag is the fact that the Lakers are now man, when were they eliminated? A good little while ago. Are now just now leaking that they are preparing to talk to candidates in the coming days. So they haven't done it yet. They aren't going to do it tomorrow, according to this report, and we're all just waiting. And again, it's not so much that like you need to get this figured out ASAP, like ASAPually. It's not that important quite yet. Though you would like your head coach to be involved in the scouting process heading into a draft where you do have a first round pick. You would like your head coach to get to know and get to work with your front office, as they embark on another crucial offseason. So, like, it's not that like you need it done yesterday, but you do certainly need to be a little bit quicker than the Lakers appear to be operating now. And I think the Clippers know that. I think the Clippers are basically slow playing their situation, and making life a little bit more difficult on the Lakers. And we'll kind of see how that plays out. I'm still told. I haven't checked in on it in the last day or so. So I'll have some updated information on that front maybe tomorrow, when I talk to Jovan Buha here in the lounge. That'll be tomorrow afternoon. But I'm still told that most people around the league believe that Lou is going to return to the Clippers. But this has been a little while, right? And you know that he isn't going to enter next season as a lame duck coach, in that type of situation. He's won a championship before. He's held in high regard there with the Clippers. So you know that they need to, that story needs to take another step forward. And the Lakers are kind of forced to wait that out. And again, intelligently waiting that out, because Lou is far and away better than every candidate that is currently out there right now. And while we all wait, I guess we get to keep getting more leaks. Like this, it's just like, it's like, when you do your laundry, right? So for me, when I do my laundry, if the clothes without being pushed down are sitting at the top of my laundry, that means that is the ideal amount of laundry for my why am I blanking on the washing machine? That is the ideal amount of clothes for my washing machine and my dryer to deal with, and without overloading it. But we all do it. We all just kind of push down the clothes a little bit further. But that moment where you see the clothes that are sitting and they have reached the top of your laundry bin, you're looking at that, and that's where the Lakers are right now. They're like, they just thought about, like, they need to hire a head coach. They need to start interviewing people to be their next head coach. That's where they are. It's like, I look at the laundry and I'm like, damn it, I need to do laundry. And then another day goes by, another like amount of clothes that you wear over the course of a day goes by, and you're like, man, I needed to do laundry yesterday. And then like you stack it a little higher, and now you're pushing down the clothes. And by the time you've like pushed down the clothes, now that's too much. That's that's too much clothes for my washing machine to deal with. And I'm risking needing to do 2 loads of laundry there. And that procrastinating is kind of hurt. And I feel like right now the Lakers have just walked by their laundry bin for the first time and looked at it and said, damn, laundry. That's the stage of the coaching search that the Lakers find themselves at. All right. I promised everybody that I was going to answer questions from Twitter. I do, however, have some super comments from the live audience. So I will go ahead and answer some of those, which means I get to play this first and foremost. Music to my ears. All right, Legend. How do we interview Adelman and Nori? So the way that this works is, especially with assistant coaches, it is complete taboo for an organization to not allow an assistant coach to interview as a head coach candidate with a different organization. It never, ever, 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 ever happens that an organization doesn't allow an assistant coach to go out and interview to be a head coach. That promotion matters. You have a coaches union. And so what the Lakers would do is they would contact the Wolves or they would contact the Nuggets, and they would ask permission to interview Adelman and Nori. Now, typically when that happens, it's when, if those candidates are in the playoffs, normally you ask for permission there, either when you have a few days between games, or if ideally, if their team has a few days off between series, that's normally when those interviews take place with other prospective organizations. Now, with Adelman and Nori specifically, it looks like that series is going to be long. It looks like the Dallas and OKC series is also going to be long. And there probably isn't going to be much downtime between this series and the next one. So that's going to make things a little complicated for the Lakers to find time to interview Adelman and Nori if they haven't already. We know basically that they haven't already. In the meantime, this is when you would interview JJ Redick. You would interview Kenny Atkinson. You would interview assistant coaches or former head coaches that work for organizations that aren't currently in the playoffs. Again, it doesn't appear that they have done that quite yet, but that is something that they are preparing to do in the coming days. But for those two coaches in particular, and any other coach that is currently active in the playoffs, or any assistant coach anywhere else, you need to ask permission to interview that assistant coach. You're always granted that permission, and you move on from there. All right, nope, that's not the next one. The next one comes from Lakers Sean saying, remember that time Pelinka ditched exit interviews? He's a magician. If only Bob Myers were available. So this was funny. The Athletic dropped a report about Tim Connolly. Well, it was about the Detroit Pistons and their search for a new president of basketball operations. And man, poor Troy Weaver. I mean, he kind of had it coming. He's been really bad in Detroit. But poor Troy Weaver, it was leaked by the Pistons that whoever gets hired is allowed to fire Troy Weaver. And if I'm Troy Weaver, I'm like, all right. Glad everybody knows that. That's really cool. I guess it's possible that whoever they bring in could technically work with Troy Weaver, but poor Troy is sitting there like, come on, man. And Troy isn't going to resign, because then he would pass up on the severance that he has coming to him if and when the Detroit Pistons fire him. So he's not going anywhere unless they fire him. And they're making it known that they're willing to do that with whoever they hire as their president of basketball operations. And a name that was mentioned there, I found this super interesting, was Tim Connolly, who built the Denver Nuggets and then went to Minnesota. And at the year after he goes to Minnesota, the Nuggets go out and win a championship, but with a roster that was basically put together by Tim Connolly. Connolly goes to Minnesota and trades for Rudy Gobert and does build out the rest of that roster, right? You bring in Jaden McDaniels, you bring in Nickeil Alexander-Walker, you bring in Mike Conley, and so on and so forth. I believe he also drafted Anthony Edwards, which is a pretty good pick, I would imagine, right now. Since then he has put together, it's really rare that an executive can basically say that the two teams that are playing each other in the second round of the playoffs or at any point in the playoffs, yeah, I built both of these things. And so like if he apparently has an opt-out in his contract that he intends to opt out of and sign a new deal. And it just happens to get mentioned in this piece by it was Shams and somebody else. I'm forgetting who wrote it. I'll look that up while I talk. But it was reported in this. It was James Edwards is who helped Shams on this one. But Shams and Edwards wrote the following. Oh, come on. I'm subscribed. I guess I have to log in. But they wrote basically that he has an opt-out, and if he opts out, it is, the Pistons believe that if they make an offer of $15-ish million, that they'd be able to entice Connolly away from Minnesota. Just like, casually floating out the number that you're looking for from your current employer. Now, remember, with Minnesota, if you're Tim Connolly, you're not sure who's going to be signing your checks next year. So it actually makes a whole bunch of sense that Connolly would be leaking this and, kind of going on the power play here, given the leverage that he has over that organization, and given the flux that organization currently finds itself in. So I totally understand where Connolly is coming from. But what that did allow Lakers fans to start kind of wondering about is, oh, well, the Lakers print money. They should be able to, like, it costs $15 million a year to go out and get Tim Connolly, the guy who built the Denver Nuggets and who built the Minnesota Timberwolves. Well, that seems nice. Right? Like a lot of people in my mentions, and by the way, it crossed my mind too. Now it was a very fleeting thought because there is zero chance whatsoever the Lakers would do it. We haven't even heard a report, a squeak, a leak, a whisper, nary a mention of Rob Pelinka's seat being even kind of hot. Like it's a freshly overturned pillow. The temperature the temperature of the seat that Rob Pelinka currently is sitting on. And that obviously, I understand that it would frustrate people. It frustrates me. Like, this guy is now on his third head coaching search in about 4 or 5 years. The Lakers have been mostly mediocre with LeBron James and Anthony Davis in the regular season. You do have a couple of lengthy playoff runs to show for that relationship. One championship, which obviously matters too. Though I would argue that the team that they won that championship with was the team that Rob Pelinka had the fewest fingerprints on, and he immediately dismantled that championship roster and, sent the Lakers into the desert that Moses wandered around in, ever since that Russell Westbrook trade that he played an active role in. And there's just no concern within the Lakers, apparently, about the job that Rob Pelinka is doing. And that obviously is pissing people off, especially when you have Bob Myers there working at ESPN, and especially when you have Tim Connolly potentially available this summer as well, and any number of potential candidates who would become available should the Lakers have an opening as their lead basketball decision maker. Remember the last time when Magic Johnson stepped down to tweet, there were a ton of executives who were, in any range of along the spectrum of interested in the Lakers gig and willing to do some back channeling conversations to see what that would look like and to see what that availability could be. But instead, the Lakers, chose to promote Rob Pelinka to vice president of basketball operations, and they also allowed him to keep his title of general manager. And obviously, the rest is history. And I totally understand that Lakers fans would look at Tim Connolly and say, like, no, you're not even gonna like talk to him. It's not. The Milwaukee Bucks are blocking John Horst from interviewing with the Detroit Pistons, which is within their right. as things stand right now, normally if you do that, you're probably going to pay that candidate or promote that candidate. So right now he's the GM, I believe, of the Milwaukee Bucks, and he would be potentially interviewing for the vice president or president of basketball operations, which would technically be a promotion. So I would imagine the Bucks are probably going to promote him this upcoming summer. The Lakers are one decision away from having, a really exciting opening here where you either get to oversee the final couple of years of LeBron James's career, or you get to be the person who, kind of designs the next chapter of Lakers history. And the Lakers appear poised to, make sure that that person who gets to do both of those things is Rob Pelinka. And yeah, I totally understand why people are kind of frustrated by it. I frankly agree. So, here we are, I guess. Another comment here. This one from Justin Tyndall. Yeah, so thank you. Justin Tyndall writing that Bronny was 6'1" without shoes and a 6'7" wingspan. That's pretty small. Now, apparently some of the measurements are kind of off right now. Stephon Castle measured way below what he actually looked like and played at while he was in college. So some of the measurements are a little wonky, and I guess we'll have to keep an eye on that or whatever. But like Bronny is not very big, and he doesn't have the smoothest jumper. He doesn't jump on his jumper. It's a set shot, which is normally a red flag for me for my point guards. And he's just, again, he's a second round prospect who in basically any other situation would not be draftable. Sagar Manon writing thoughts about bringing in Kuz. He could fit in LA. Yeah, I mean, look, I've reported in the past, you go back to the trade deadline, the Lakers kind of kicked the tires on Kuz and they checked in on his availability. The Washington Wizards at that time were not interested in trading Kuzma. Now, they did trade away Daniel Gafford, which was pretty surprising to me. And according to reports, they are hoping to bring in another first rounder into this upcoming draft, which doesn't exactly have a ton of star power, but is considered relatively deep. And the going price on Kuz was at least a first rounder, maybe even 2 first rounders. He is on a, relatively easy contract to deal with. I would imagine that the Lakers are going to put in a call with Washington to check in on his availability and see what that price is. I think he'd be a clear upgrade over Rui or any other wing that the Lakers have had basically since he went since they traded him to Washington. And I also, as I've said here a few times on the show, I also know that he is very open to returning to LA and being a Laker again. So, I love the idea of bringing back Kuz. I really liked him as a player, and I thought that the Lakers gave up on that formula of team building way too quickly and have kind of regretted it ever since. Not kind of, they have regretted it ever since. So yeah, I'm 100% in on Kuz. It just depends on the price. All right. Lakers GOAT. This is from yesterday. Gonna try to get to as many of these questions as possible. A quick reminder: the best way to get your topic covered on the show is a 5-star review on iTunes. They're free. The second best way is to leave a super comment here because those are highlighted when they are left. But the best and cheapest way to get a comment on here is to leave a 5-star review on iTunes. You can search on iTunes for Lakers Lounge and show pops right up. I'm going to get to as many of these ones as I can in the next, 10 to 15 minutes or so. And starting with this one from Laker Goat. Do you think do you think the NBA should adopt the non-coast conference system like in the NFL, where they have the AFC and the NFC, or MLB, where they have the AL and the NL? The West is way overstocked, and would or should they do this? Should they? Absolutely. Like, you need to figure out some way to close the gap between the East and the just poor basketball that we've seen for decades now, and the West, which is again next year going to be even more stacked. Um, so that I think is should they is an easy one to answer. Yes, they absolutely should look into whatever resolution it takes or whatever solution it takes to, bridge that gap between the two conferences. Now, would they? Not happening. It's never happening. If you're an owner of an Eastern Conference team, your job is really, really easy, and your path to profitability is really, really easy. Be mediocre, duck the luxury tax, keep your payroll nice and low, and chances are you will at least get a play-in game. And if you win enough of those play-in games, you get playoff revenue. And if you're an owner there and it gets presented, or this solution gets presented that would make your life harder, guess how you're going to vote? And there are just too many owners in the East who are just never going to vote for that. And it sucks. I wish that wasn't the case. But, again, should something be done? Absolutely. The West has been way too good for way too long, and the East has been way too bad for way too long. You would think at some point it would flip accidentally. Like, when you're bad in the NBA, you get to draft at the top of the at the top of the draft. You would think that there are enough Eastern Conference teams that have been drafting high enough to figure this out at some point, and you'd get enough talent to bridge that gap between the East and the West. But nope. All of those organizations are owned by, bumbling idiots, or people who are so cynical that they don't care about winning championships and way vastly prioritize, keeping the books clean, so that when that playoff revenue comes in, it's a nice little bonus versus something that you would invest back into your organization. And here we are. You have the West, where it takes a certain level of competency to make it into the playoffs and viably come out of the Western Conference. And then in the East, if the West is if that competence level, if that bar is sitting right here, the East is somewhere like, in the magma that is well below the crust of the earth. Like, it's just it's a problem that not enough or I guess too many people are incentivized to, maintain the status quo to actually fix it. Seraphic Blade. Lady Greenheart asks, can we get Jonas Valanciunas? Who can we trade using the first round pick? I don't think it would take a first round pick to get Jonas. I think in general, the Pelicans are going to be doing some pretty drastic stuff. Mark Stein reported that it is considered an inevitability that Brandon Ingram gets traded this upcoming summer. For those of you who are curious, do the Lakers have enough to make that work, or would that fit? I think it'd be really clunky. Like, the LeBron and Ingram thing just never really worked in the way that I wish it did. And I think he's formed some bad habits out there in New Orleans as kind of their primary ball handler. He's not the defender that he should be, frankly. And he never developed as a facilitator in the way that I would have hoped. And then obviously his shot, it's improved, don't get me wrong, but he's not a catch and shoot threat. And that is really limited the way that he and Zion can kind of operate together. But yeah, Valanciunas is interesting. I think he would, fit that mold of player that I talked about in yesterday's show. Somebody who is better than Christian Wood, but obviously is going to be worse than Anthony Davis, and could potentially play next to AD a little clunky because Valanciunas doesn't spread the floor all that well. Is a decent passer, right? He would really help. I would like him in, as like an innings eater against Jokic, if that, as that is a matchup that you always have to have at the forefront of your mind. But he's interesting, and would it take a first rounder? I'd be pretty surprised if it costs a first rounder to get JV. I would probably say it would cost multiple seconds, and you're probably giving up, maybe a pick swap or something in there too. But I think he's a name that I'd be pretty happy about if they were able to bring him in. Oh, this is an interesting one. All right, so Lakers perp. Conley is averaging 11 points per game. Naz Reid is averaging 12 points per game. D'Lo averaged 14 points per game. AR averaged 17 points per game. Can you compare fan reaction to each? Well, one team is in the second round of the playoffs. The other team got sent home by the same team that swept them last year and were only able to win one game. You are now, if you increase your win total against that team by one every year, you're still 3 years from beating the Denver Nuggets in a playoff series. And we all know that it doesn't necessarily work that way. Points per game isn't the only thing that matters in basketball. Like the idea that because D'Lo and Austin score more, that's all I care about. Conley is a significantly better defender. He takes way less off of the table and puts a decent amount on it. Naz Reid, the reigning sixth man of the year. You talk about bigs who would be absolutely perfect for the Lakers to bring in. Naz Reid is him. Like, that's the guy that if the Lakers basically, committed all of their resources to bringing in a big, Naz would be the guy that I'd be interested in. He spreads the floor. He's big. He's physical. He's tough. He can actually move his feet okay too, and is already willing to come off of the bench. Like, he could play with AD. He could be just fine without AD. Now you lose some of the vertical threat that you would have from other centers potentially, but like, there's a reason that he's gone from undrafted player to really, really, really important player. And whereas like D'Lo went from second overall pick or wherever he was drafted to now he's like a fringe, he's like a good starter, but he's not a starter on a team that's going to win you a championship. And that the fan reaction to each, fans are reacting to the fact that Lakers fans are reacting to the fact that their team is no longer playing. It's really kind of that simple. Did dinosaurs actually roam the earth, or did scientists just make that up with partial fossil fragments? I'm pretty sure dinosaurs roam the earth, and like they have partial fossil fragments because that happened millions and millions and millions of years ago, and that's all that you have to show for it. But yeah, I tend to believe in dinosaurs, and I tend to believe in science, just generally speaking. Dinosaurs are also just really fun to think about. I was one of those nerds growing up. When I was like 10 years old, I had all of the dinosaurs memorized. And even still, like if I'm watching I think one of my viral tweets from a few years back was, a joke about the Jurassic Park and how dinosaurs that are featured in Jurassic Park were actually from the Cretaceous period. Like, again, like those, you guys have no idea what kind of a nerd I am, and dinosaurs are just really, really fun to think about. NBA Insider Goat apparently tweeted on May 12th that Lakers head coach news is coming tomorrow. And then somebody quote tweeted that to ask if I had heard about that. I guess if you want to say that the report from Woj and McMenamin counts as Lakers coaching news, okay. Like, but no, the Lakers are going to move really, really slow. They have moved really, really slow, and that's going to remain the case for a little while. Let's see. How many coaches say no before the Lakers offer Kurt Rambis a job? For one thing, no candidate that is currently on the market or could potentially get hired by the Lakers is going to say no to the Lakers. And that's just not going to happen. So right then and there, that question is a little tough. But the other thing too with Kurt Rambis specifically, because I get a lot of people asking about Kurt Rambis. Kurt Rambis has like one of the most cush jobs in the entire NBA. He's essentially, his input gets taken into account, and he is somebody whose voice really, really matters in the Los Angeles Lakers organization. And there is zero risk whatsoever for him to get fired. It's never going to happen. Kurt Rambis will never be fired and will probably never be displaced in the Lakers organization so long as Jeanie is the owner. So the idea that he would go from that, take technically a demotion, and go try to be the head coach of the Lakers and all of the pressure that comes with that, it's not happening. It just is never, ever, ever going to happen. And I don't think the Lakers would ever seriously consider it anyway. But he also would be crazy to take that gig. And I don't think he's a crazy person. I think he's smart enough to realize a good situation while he has it. And, right now he's sticking around in the job that he has for the foreseeable future. All right. Last question here before I go. And this is from at Logical Quan, writing, what are the odds that the Hawks do a hard or soft rebuild, and who do the Lakers have the best odds of getting between Trey and DeJounte? So I saw a lot of people jumping to the conclusion that because they got the top pick, that the Hawks are immediately going to go into a full rebuild. Remember I talked earlier about owners in the East who strive for mediocrity? And because there isn't a transformative presence in this draft, I think there's a lot of good players based off of what I've read so far about this draft. It's a lot of good players, no great players, or there are a lot of very good players even, but certainly no great players that when you draft them are going to be great. There might be some players who turn out to be great, but nobody that when you draft them, is going to be great. And because of that, I could see the Hawks trading that first overall pick and bringing in more help for Trae Young to, for the Hawks to be a more serious contender with Trae Young there. He fired Clutch, or he went away from Clutch, got, hired CAA. So that kind of already made me think that he probably isn't going to be a Laker anyway. But now look, what does that mean for DeJounte Murray? That's where it gets kind of interesting because that fit between him and Trey was clunky last year. So maybe Murray becomes available. But again, the amount of assets that it would take to go out and get DeJounte Murray, I would just rather use those assets or those resources on a wing, on a two-way wing, on a big who can play with or without Anthony Davis. Like, I don't get the infatuation with point guards. I really, really don't. Like, you look at the point guards that are still available out there. All right, Kyrie, if I'm thinking about all of the best point guards that are still playing right now, you got Shea, who in my mind should have been the MVP. So, all right. And then you have Kyrie. And then you have Mike Conley, who's more of a kind of floor general. And then you have Jamal Murray, who is capable of playing like a superstar, but he isn't the best player on his team. And then, you have in Boston, you have Drew Holiday, who's a kind of Mike Conley type player. And you have Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. Mitchell and Garland are probably going to be eliminated. Brunson and the Knicks look like they are going to be eliminated. One of Kyrie or Shea are going to be eliminated this round. And then it looks like Conley is probably going to be eliminated by the Denver Nuggets. Like, my point here is that, like, for all of the focus over the years on point guards, and there's been a lot, I would love to go back and chart the number of max level point guards who have gone out and won a championship as the best player on their team. And that's not to say that, the Lakers would be looking to bring in a point guard who would be the best player on the team. The best player on next year's team is going to be Anthony Davis. But I don't understand why there is, like, honestly, the Lakers have gotten themselves in trouble. The reason that they are where they are right now, where you are trying to find a path back to title competition next year, despite having Anthony Davis and despite having LeBron James healthy for more of last season than they've ever been healthy together to this point. The reason that you are trying to find a way to still be competitive despite having those guys in your organization is because of this just perpetual search for a point guard. Why? What are you doing? Like, you won a championship with Alex Caruso starting as point guard. You spent most of that year with, like, KCP or Avery Bradley starting as a point guard. Like, stop with the point guard nonsense. Stop it. Doesn't mean you can't find more creativity and you can't have more secondary. Fine, but you have that too. You have one of Austin or D'Lo, like, or both probably going into next season. I don't know, but, like, this idea that, like, the Lakers need, like, this focus, this perpetual and never-ending focus on point guards. It was Dennis Schroeder and it was Russell Westbrook, and now it's DeJounte Murray and it's Trae Young and it's Donovan Mitchell, and it's just point guard after point guard after point guard. When everything in basketball right now is indicating the bigger that your team is and the bigger that your creativity is on the floor at any given time, the higher a likelihood that you're going to have a championship caliber team, right? Like, you have the flash in the pans. You have the Sacramento Kings, right, who had De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk, and they were super duper fun, and then they didn't matter. You have Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, and they're super duper fun, but in, like, a few days, they probably aren't going to matter either. In the like, it's just, why? I'm losing. I went full Joker again. I did it. You got me ranting, talking about point guards. No more point guard talk. Get me two-way wings. Get me guys who can play on both sides of the ball, and I don't have to worry about getting picked on in a playoff series. Those are the types of players that the Lakers need to focus on. Stop it with this unending and incessant search for a point guard when LeBron James is going to have the ball at the end of the game anyway. Man, I got heated. Whew. All right. Before I have a heart attack, that is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers, the Lakers Lowdown. Again, as I mentioned earlier in the show, the plan right now is for Jovan Buha to be here in the lounge live tomorrow afternoon. That'll be a fun conversation. Always love catching up with him. I thought Harrison might be doing today's show. He is pushed instead to Wednesday's show, and then we have Aaron, and then we have heading into the weekend. So, unless we get big breaking news or whatever like that, until tomorrow, please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button. It's insane to me that 900 people are in here watching. You guys are the best. I will never understand the amounts of support that we get here. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. But yeah, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, comment, rate, review, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your neighbors, tell whoever. And until the next time you guys hear from me, have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's. I'll talk to you mañana.